Wheelhouse 2 allows you to configure each of 6 view buttons to show different S57 objects and Wheelhouse 2 objects. In this video, we're going to talk about the Wheelhouse 2 objects. If I right-click on View Button 6, the items in the left pane that are preceded with WH2 are the objects that are provided from Wheelhouse 2, either the Raven vector dataset or some object such as a vector that Wheelhouse 2 controls. The first one here is custom depth data. Custom depth data comes from the Army Corps of Engineers and is updated weekly for some pilot groups. If in order for that data to show for the given view, this checkbox here must be on. This particular data set doesn't have custom depth data, although it could. This item here, Raven Annotation Shoreline. Let me pan the chart over. These red lines here are Raven Annotation Shoreline. They come from the Raven vector data set. And currently they're turned on. If I turn them off, see the red lines go away. Then there's the Raven S57 buoy text, U.S. Coast Guard buoy icons, U.S. Coast Guard buoy labels. These were all previously discussed in the video entitled Buoys. Finally, there's the user annotations. Let's create a user annotation. Click on the measurement tool, position the cursor, press enter, press create user label annotation at circle. Delete this. So there's a user annotation. If I right click on the view, select annotations, I can turn that off. I'll slide this over so you can see. There it is. I'm going to turn it off. So I want to go back and delete it. So menu, delete user data, annotation, delete this, delete it, done. Okay, going back to the WH2 objects that you can control for a given view, we have the Army Corps of Engineers channel, and I'm going to show you that. Here is a channel. If I click that off, press apply, the channel goes away. The center line remains, but the channel goes away. Here's another one, all channels. Let's put the first one back. Then let's get rid of all channels, apply. And notice this was an unselected route where this channel went away. That's a dashed center line for an unselected route. Let's bring that back. And then NOAA shoreline. Watch this, apply, and notice how the green NOAA land masses go away. That particular NOAA shoreline is created from a file that we download from the internet from NOAA. That's a very coarse shoreline, not nearly as accurate as the S57 land masses. Put that back. Now, proceeding on down, we have the north up arrow and the scale bar. So the north up arrow is here. We can turn it off. See how it goes away? Let's bring it back. The scale bar is over here. We can turn it off. Let's bring it back. And going down to the next one, Wheelhouse 2 range circles. They have the bow range circles and the stern range circles. We need to get the vessel in view. Click on the vessel in view button. And if I zoom down, I have the bow circle and the stern circle, and those can both be turned off independent of each other. There we go. They're both turned off. Let's turn them back on. Now, those are typically used in docking when you're rotating, pivoting the vessel. You can get some idea of you know, what's within the range of the bow or the stern. Typically, these range circles would not be on when you're underway. They're a docking sort of tool. Then let's move on down. Oh, and I should say at this point that the range circles, if I press F12, you can see that there's you know, various and sundry things that you can do. And notice right here, R is toggle the range circles. I'll press F1. So if I press R, that turns the range circles on and off. and shouldn't be confused with the these bow and stern range circles, different from the range circles which simulate the ship's radar range circles. Moving on down here, we have remote vessels, and there's AIS vessels, AIS Class B vessels, and SEND vessels. And if I zoom up, I can see quite a few remote vessels. And if I turn off the AIS vessels, click apply, you see how they go away. Click and come back. I don't have any Class B AIS, and I don't have any SEND vessels, but you get the idea. They would act the same way as AIS vessels for this option. And then finally, we have the AIS-B, Class B course over ground vectors, the bow position vector, and the stern position vector. These two vectors go together. If I come over here, if I come over here and zoom down on the vessel, center up the ship, right click to center, and I click bow position vector and stern position vector and apply, and you can see that there's a little vector has come on there for the bow and the stern. Again, these particular vectors are used for docking. They wouldn't be typically used while you're underway. Let's turn those off. And then there's the bow stern center line distance. Apply that. Now, if this vessel were off the center line, you would see these red lines with the distance from the bow and distance from the stern indicated. And here it's showing actually, they would actually draw a line if the vessel wasn't covering up the center line, would draw a line to the center line, and in this case it would be 29 feet left, 40 feet left. Well, actually, you can see the line there, and actually there's the line there. So that's what those are. And then you have cog vectors for remote vessels. You can turn those off. And in the case that you had tugs and you didn't want to see the tug vectors because it was cluttering up the picture of your own vector, you can come right here and turn it off. And these next two check boxes are for the own vessel cog and vector. And then, by the way, I should say that for the cog vectors for remote vessels, this turns them all off. But it doesn't turn your own vessel off here. That's controlled here. Now, one thing I should say about own vessel cog and heading is that these values are affected by these values. So like I've got it at 3 minutes right now, own vessel cog. Let's say I change it down to 1 minute. And you can see this own vessel cog shortened up there. And then own vessel heading, let's say we put it out to 200 feet instead of 2,000 feet. And you can see the blue line shortened down there a bit. And I should say also that, remember previously when we looked at the bow and stern circles, range circles, they are, the radius of those circles are controlled right here. Okay, so that's it.